Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition, episode number 43 of the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast. My name is Jim, and there have been some great stories this week throughout baseball, throughout the world, and two of them that stand out to me. One former Red Sox says that the game of baseball, in so many words, stinks, and another former Red Sox legend never paid attention to what the count was when he was playing. Joining me, as always, my friend, co-host, former coach, professional evaluator, and the stud muffin himself, Jake Epstein. How you doing, Jake, buddy boy?
Man, I like that. I haven't heard stud muffin in quite a long time. That's old school there, Jim.
Yes.
I will say.
I don't think it's that old school, though.
Really? That's I have a guy is a certified instructor in Indianapolis, Dale Speckman, and he kind of looks like Aquaman. Like, he's a big buff dude, plays the guitar. He's just a cool guy, and so he does batting lessons, but he also owns like a gym and stuff. And he calls everybody stud. That was the last time I heard stud muffin.
So everybody who plays the guitar is cool now. Is that like the new thing?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, no doubt about it. Always has been.
So David
started
Ortiz,
with Jimi Hendrix. Started with the left-handed guitarist.
I'm left-handed, so I would, I never.
There's
tried
only
guitar.
like two: Paul McCartney and Jimi Hendrix, I believe.
You know what I played in third grade? I played the saxophone. Yeah.
You and Bill Clinton. Did Bill
really Clinton play the saxophone? No kidding.
He did. Yeah.
So, David, is what I alluded to. I want to get your opinion on this. And today we're talking about what makes great college hitters, with college baseball having started up this weekend at the Division I level. Division II and Division III will be starting in the next couple of weeks. So we'll be discussing some college baseball today. And there was a great tweet, by the way, from and I retweeted it this week, from an Ivy League head coach that talked about how the Ivy League canceled their season. And it was a great tweet. I'm going to get to that in just a couple of minutes here. But David Ortiz came out and said this earlier this week. I'm getting this from yardbarker.com right now. He said, in regards to how the game of baseball basically is played and how hitters and their approaches have changed. He said, to me, quote unquote, it's messed up. The game has changed a lot. Coaches only want kids to hit home runs, and that's all they practice because they want to get paid. We used to develop great hitters. Now it's all strikeouts and some home runs, and it's straight up fucking boring. If you could bet in Vegas that the next hitter was going to strike out, you take it every time. And I think he is correct in many instances there, that the game has gotten very, very boring. I want to tell you a quick story. 5 years ago, when I first started my career in professional baseball, this is when I was in independent baseball, the clubhouse manager was a former scout for the Reds. And he would tell me about how the game has changed. And I remember one night I went in there, this was like in August or something, and he's watching a game that was on the MLB network. And this was when everybody left and all the players were gone. And he says, I can't watch this anymore. And I asked him why. And he said, he looks at me and he says in this grovelly voice that it's boring. And I think the game has really gotten boring. And I think David Ortiz is onto something. And Trevor Bauer, by the way, came out this week in an interview with MLB Network and also said this too, how we have to learn to develop pitchers, not just guys who throw hard. And it's the same thing with hitters. And I think it's gotten to the point where it's the opposite right now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know if it's boring. Like, I guess people would call it boring. I mean, listen, when hitters or pitchers are really good, you're not going to get 3 hits, 4 hits in an inning. Like, it doesn't happen. Like, when you're facing I used to say a number 1 or number 2 starter. Now it's pretty much your number 1 through 3 starter plus the first 3 guys out of the bullpen.
Yeah.
So you have to get extra base hits, and you do have to hit home runs to score runs. So I see where there's both sides of it, but we also have to know that pitchers are better now than they were. I don't know if pitchers are better. The way that the game is pitched, the way that, there's there's setups, right? I mean, this guy's only going to throw 4 innings. He's only going to go twice through the lineup, and then we're going to bring in a fresh arm. Like, the strategy behind pitching is different. And if you want to score runs, you're trying to get a walk and you're trying to hit a home run. They used to call it a bloop and a blast, right? So I don't know if it's boring. Home runs are still fun. I do feel that the game's boring because there's so many pitching changes. Like, that bothers me. And that the shift bothers me.
Yes.
When you have too many guys on one side of the infield like that does bother me. So, offenses are trying to, they're trying to score runs. And I know this episode we're talking about, college players. And, it was like us. We would play a midweek game against a, non-SEC team, and we could put up 10 runs. We would face guys, instead of them throwing 95, they're throwing 87. And instead of their breaking balls at 88, their breaking balls are at 75. And you just jump on them, right? They're easier to hit. The teams make more errors. They don't turn 2 on plays that other SEC teams maybe turn 2 on. So you have extra runners on base. It's just, it's the pitching that allows hitters to hit more. And when pitching is really good, which it is consistently at the major league level, then I see that that's happened. Now, on the contrary, I do not like what is being taught with the hitting. So I still think we can be better hitters and not strike out as much and change our mindset. I'm not a big, I don't like where the swing plane is going with I would say more youth players than I do see at the big league level. So that's the issue that I have, is guys going to college because they're coming out of high school and they're bad. The moves aren't good. The moves are good at a PBR showcase with a guy throwing, 50 miles an hour from 35 feet. And you can just launch balls because you're big and strong, but those moves don't work at the next level. So now all of a sudden you get these college coaches, they get these players, nobody can hit in inter squads in the fall because, they're facing guys that are consistently throwing, in the mid 80s or higher. So yes, don't get me wrong. Like, I feel that there's a difference between amateur baseball and pro baseball. Pro baseball, I believe, is trying to do what they need to do to score runs. And if that is, look, we're not going to get 4 and 5 hits an inning, like or 3 hits an inning, we got to find a way to, hit a home run every other inning if that's what it's going to take. And the ball is rewarding that. You can hit fly balls and you can launch balls over 40 degrees and hit home runs. Well, that wasn't the case probably 5 or 6 years ago. You couldn't really hit a ball over 42 degrees that was going out of the park. Well, now those are getting rewarded. So, of course, everyone's aiming towards the bottom of the baseball.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the point, though, about how it's being taught. And I think some of these former players, and David Ortiz is probably in that category, that don't agree with how the game is being taught throughout many high levels right now. I mean, I saw a tweet yesterday, and I think I commented on it from Jeff Fry, who tweets so many great things throughout the week. I could retweet him almost every single day. But he tweeted a video of a hitter who was on this apparatus with where they were unbalanced and they were just using their upper body to hit. And I kind of just said to myself, because I want to think through this. I want to think, what's the science behind this drill? And it's like I guess just like what our world has turned into nowadays. I mean, the science is always changing. We're always moving the goalpost, it seems like. But I couldn't see what the science was with this. And to me, I don't know if you saw it or not. Would you ever squat, say, I don't know, I think a good squat, barbell squat for a guy is 135 pounds. Would you ever put that on your back and stand on an apparatus that this hitter was standing on? I encourage everybody to check out what Jeff Fry on Twitter tweeted about. Would you do that? Would you squat and just use your upper body like that? No, you wouldn't. I mean, to me, athletics and in any sport, hockey, basketball, the reason Allen Iverson was so great and could cross people over was because his footwork was so great, his lower half. You need your lower half in any sport, any athletic competition. And then we can break down what comes first and et cetera, with throwing, hitting. But to me, what is the point of all this? What is the point of not using your legs and just using your upper body in the name of science to try to get hitters better, as the tweet I saw? And I think that's what that David Ortiz is coming at, and the approach he's taken as to why the game has gotten boring, because it's being taught the wrong way.
David Ortiz is, a guy that didn't swing down. He was the guy that hit home runs.
Yeah.
And so it's funny to hear him say, the game is bad now, because he was a power hitter. Now, don't get me wrong, he was a professional hitter. He had 260. I don't know what his career average was, but I would say he was probably a 260 hitter or 270 hitter. But he did shorten up. He did take balls the other way when he needed to. He was a good all-around hitter. Getting back to the apparatus, sometimes I see things. I mean, I get what Fry is saying. Like, there's some stupid shit out there.
Yes.
Like, really bad and lame. But some of the stuff, I see why they're doing it, right? Like, okay, this player has a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so I see it from both sides, because I'm not I'm not a PVC guy, right? I'm not a steering wheel, drop the elbow, snap the bat, get the back elbow underneath too soon, accelerate the bat early. I'm not in that camp. I just don't think it plays at the higher levels. But I'm also in the camp of teaching players to fix problems. And so what Jeff Fry doesn't do on a daily basis is he doesn't work with 10-year-olds,
mm-hmm.
that have catastrophic issues,
yeah.
right? You have a 10-year-old with an arm bar and a cast problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you have to find a way to fix that. You can't.
Mm-hmm.
That kid. Listen, I've worked with thousands of these players, tens of thousands of these players over the years. If you don't fix that 10-year-old and you just let him play, he doesn't play at 13. Like, he's done. He's
mm-hmm.
going to go to Little League. He's going to struggle. He's out of the game. So I see the side where, look, we have to fix this casting. So if you have to put a ball, in between his arms so that he can't pre-extend,
mm-hmm.
to give him a feel, I'm totally fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
If we're, exaggerating a move to make a point to change a kid that won't be playing in a long time, then I'm okay with that. So the cool part is I get to see it from both sides. Yes, the one where what's his name is suspended from a gymnastics crane or something, and he's trying to hit, and he's trying to, like, look at what my legs do, when I'm like, oh, that's is he trying to prove a point or something? Like, I get there are certain things, and I'm telling you, I just worked through huge lists of scouting Latin player, like a couple hundred 15-year-old Latin players, right? And a couple hundred top, probably 3 or 4 round draft eligible guys this year. And the Latin players at a young age, their mechanics are so much better. Like, it's not even close how much better they are. And so with those guys, if you were to take those guys, which are now, they're probably also the best international players for their age in the world, right?
Yeah.
So if you took the top 15-year-olds in the United States, maybe it would match up. But I don't see top 15-year-olds. I see random 15-year-olds, but it's not. They're not drafted. So, looking at those guys, now I see, somebody like, if you were to take those really good 14, 15-year-old international players and teach them this bullshit, of twisting this and turning that and trying to scap load and tuck your torso underneath and flex your
my favorite,
abs,
and we talked about this on the show before, my favorite's the hip hinge.
The hip hinge, right? Like, all this stuff. Do you think they think about that? No, they don't think about that stuff, right? Like, can you teach? But if you start teaching these players those moves, you'll ruin them.
Yeah.
So if you take Fry's stance and you take all those Latin players and you say, put a ball on a tee and take 300 swings every other day, or take 150 swings a day and hit the ball back through the middle, that will make those Latin players great.
Right.
If you tell a 10-year-old American kid with a bat drag or an arm bar issue or a bug squishing issue to take 150 to 200 swings a day, hitting the ball back through the middle, they're just going to do the same thing over and over again incorrectly, and they're never going to get any better. So you have to know what you're dealing with, and you have to assess each player a certain way. We had a guy in one of our clients in Texas is he's he teaches mechanical engineering at the university, right? Like, so he's a very bright guy, and they have access to all kinds of stuff. And he's like, hey, do you ever want to blah, blah, blah? We'll put you in a chamber and blah. And I'm like, well, that would be cool, but I don't know if it would be beneficial.
Yeah.
Right. Like, what is that going to, okay, that proves that the player still can't find a barrel. And that's what hitting is about. So I pulled up Garrett Mitchell because there was a clip on him. Garrett Mitchell was the first rounder for the Brewers last year out of UCLA.
We talked about him on previous episodes. I like him a lot.
Yeah, I like him a lot too. So his swing plane, he was one of the highest grades that I gave in the draft of all the players. And again, I don't necessarily know their other intangibles, how athletic they are, how fast they are, what their vision is. I don't see all those reports, but I see their swing. And so his swing plane, I'm like, okay, that swing plane plays. And so I watched him hitting, on Twitter, somebody posted he's hitting off a tee, and he swings like every other big leaguer off a tee. And no amateur player hits like that off a tee. David Ortiz,
which is what?
Right.
Can you just kind of dive into that? Which is what?
Yeah. So kids go to hit off a tee and they try to hit the ball off the top of the cage, off of a tee. Okay. Which it doesn't work. The ball's not moving. So if the ball's not moving and the ball's stationary and the ball's at 0 degrees, there's no incoming angle of that ball you're trying to match. The angle is 0. The angle is flat. The angle is level. So when you hit a ball off the tee, you should try to launch it like somewhere between like 5 degrees is what your launch angle should be.
Yeah.
And when people talk about, like you hear Pujols, I backspin it off, I'm trying to do this. Yeah. And people are like, oh, you can't defy gravity and make a ball rise and that. But if you hit a ball hard with backspin, it doesn't sink. You're hitting a line drive back to the middle. And kids can't do, I saw, our electricity it was rough in Texas this past week, but we got all of our players in once the electricity came back on in Texas. But, I watch everybody warm up, and we see, I don't know, 40 different players a day, 30 to 40, high school, all the way down to like 10-year-olds. And I'm constantly telling them, and Matt and I are constantly, hey, aim here. Like, don't try to, they'll just sit there and sit back. And you have kids that are pretty good players and they're playing, and they can overmatch the competition because they're big and they can hit fly balls that outfielders don't catch at 12 years old. But as soon as they get to high school, they're toast. Yeah. So we're constantly changing those players to look like big leaguers. We figure if we can make them train like big leaguers, this is what DJ LeMahieu does off a tee. Here's a video of DJ LeMahieu hitting off a tee. Yeah. See where he hit everything? Here's Albert Pujols hitting off a tee. Here's Mike Trout hitting off a tee. Like, maybe if we do train like those guys, this will show up in the game. So, and I do see both sides. You look at DJ LeMahieu off a tee, and he swings down way more than he swings up in a game. But maybe if he didn't do that off the tee, maybe he would swing up too much in a game and it would cause problems. Like, I don't know. But I do know that just trying to launch balls doesn't get anybody any better when they're 10 years old.
But we can agree.
I don't mind swinging hard. So don't get me wrong. Like, I want intent. I want them to hit the ball hard, but I'm not trying to get them to hit balls hard at a 30 to 40 degree launch angle, because that won't work at their age. That won't, that might work when they're 10 and they're 120 pounds. Like, you have a big 10-year-old. But once that kid gets a little bit older and everything catches up, first they'll start hitting a lot of fly balls that get caught. And then as the pitcher gets a little bit faster, now they start swinging under everything.
But we can agree that taking your legs out of it like that and putting somebody on an apparatus or some kind of thing that you'll find in a gymnasium and a gymnastics place is ridiculous.
I don't know what that does. Like, they're trying to teach players to reorganize their bodies. So I kind of get, okay, if you're striding and it's a breaking ball, can you reorganize your weight so that you can stay back? So if that's what they're trying to do, I guess maybe, but let's put it this way. I'm not going to do that with a player.
All right. Well, good stuff. All right. I'm glad we're in agreement there. I laughed. I woke up yesterday morning and I saw it and I laughed. I said, what are we doing?
What is that? Yeah, no, I know.
What are we doing here? And I said to myself, would you deadlift or squat without your legs? No, of course not. So why would you hit without your legs? Do any athletic thing without suspended in the air like that, or have your legs on this unbalanced balance beam where somebody's gonna get hurt, twist their ankle, tear their ACL. Oh, how'd you do it? I was training in the cage. Doing what? I was on this stupid balance beam.
Creating instability, and then he exploded.
Also, let's move on to something more simple here. Manny Ramirez came out and said this week that this was on Barstool Sports, he never used to follow the count when he was hitting. He never knew what the count was. I'm not advocating for something like this for our younger listeners who are listening out there. I'm not advocating for this, but I'm also not going to sit here and say that I'm against it either for hitters out there. And you've worked with probably a bunch of them, myself included, who overthink things. So maybe just making it as simple as possible, like Manny did, not knowing what the count is, could actually be beneficial. Could it be beneficial? Yeah, or am I using the argument of taking your legs out in the swing? Am I in that camp in this instance?
Well, I don't know if I buy it. I mean, how many times did Manny Ramirez not go to first base when he was walked? Like the umpire had to tell him it was 4 balls. So, or strike out.
Yeah.
And then being like, oh, that was strike 3. Oh, my bad. I guess I need to walk away. So what I do know is Manny was the smartest hitter ever. I shouldn't say ever, but Manny was so smart. Like he would sit on pitches. So what I don't know is if he just took the count out of it and that's all he did was I'm going to sit breaking ball this entire at bat. And he didn't care what the count was. And that would make sense because Manny would get 2-0 breaking balls all the time, 1-0 breaking balls, 3-1 breaking balls. So when he would make up his mind to hit a certain pitch, I saw him do it here in Denver. I'll never forget it. Like it was the first pitch was a fastball right down the middle. And he didn't even drop his front foot until the ball was like, typically a major leaguer is going to drop their front foot. The ball's about 15 feet from home plate. He didn't drop his foot till the ball was like in the home plate dirt, like almost right in front of home plate. And I'm like, wow, he's definitely sitting on a breaking pitch. And then the next pitch was a fastball. He took that one too. And then the third pitch was a breaking ball and he hit a double into right center field. And I'm like, God, this guy's like, talk about sticking to a plan and not making life too difficult. And now, did he know what the count was? Maybe he didn't care what the count was, but he was a very smart hitter in the fact that he had a plan and he knew what he wanted to do. Okay. I love Manny.
Yeah. I think that's maybe more what he was alluding to. He never really paid attention much to the count. It was more and so
maybe he didn't change. Yeah, maybe he didn't change. He's like, if the count's 1 and 2 or 2 and 1, I'm still trying to hit a double. You know, maybe that was his mindset. I will say my new favorite Manny. I want to hang out with him.
Yeah.
When he was in Australia, did you see that? And they were getting coffee, and he, Manny's like kind of old and gray now, and there's like this young dude, and he's got a Red Sox hat on, and Manny's like, "Oh, you like the Red Sox?" And the guy's like, "Dude, don't talk to me. I'm with my girlfriend." He's like, "Oh yeah," and Manny's like, "Yeah, I like the Red Sox too." And the guy's like, great. He had no idea who it was.
Yeah. I'm sure you have plenty of Manny Ramirez clips in your archived library.
I do. He's good.
Maybe we can do like a Manny Ramirez mechanical breakdown series.
Maybe we can.
Maybe we can do it, like say, I don't know, next week. Because it's time.
Maybe we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like it's not like we didn't discuss, who we're going to do next week. So maybe we can do Manny. Who knows?
Hey, we're fluid, man.
Yeah.
We can do whatever.
Very flexible.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to get to our topic at hand today. The makings of great college hitters, because you were just in the college game not too long ago with Mizzou in the top conference, arguably in all of college. But I think SEC is the top conference, right? I mean, along with the ACC. So we're going to get to that in just a moment here. But, I was thinking, I got your email this week, the blast email about the lab in Texas. And I got to thinking now, hearing your stories about how the power went out and whatnot, what a perfect time it would be if you have a snowstorm, because it's snowing throughout the country. It's cold throughout the country except for Florida. Although last night it got down into the 50s.
Oh,
which was very nice.
Awful.
Oh, it was great. I had my window open. It felt great. So if you're snowed in right now, I know a lot of people in the Northeast where I used to live are snowed in. If you're snowed in, you're a player, you can't get out, you don't want to go out, cages are closed, there's plenty of drills you can do that are sufficient, not the drill we talked about earlier in the show, and you can find some of those drills on epsteinhitting.com with the Online Hitting Academy.
Yeah, you absolutely can. Why not? Join the hundreds that already do it.
Yes.
Every day, which reminds me, Jim, I have to get to work after we're done with our podcast, because I got a dashboard full of eager players in cold weather climates and warm weather. It's really funny doing the drills, because I'll have people like in their basements, back east or in the Midwest or wherever it's cold. And then there'll be like my California families that are in there, and they'll send videos next to their pool or it's sunny. And I'm like, yeah, it makes it a little easier. But yeah, absolutely. Jump on board. We can always get better. And the good part is what makes the Epstein Online Academy great is me.
I agree.
No, I'm just kidding. No, it's not my. It's the experience of, look, you need to work on this. You might have 2-3 issues that are like soft focus. This will make you better this upcoming season. You're 11 years old, you're 12 years old, you're 13, whatever. We're going to fix this. Don't worry about that other stuff. I'm going to give you a dedicated plan to fix that move. When you prove to me that you can fix it, then we move on to stage 2, and then we move on to stage 3, and then we start working on timing and rhythm and the mental stuff. So, everybody's got their own stuff now. Hey, sign up here. You can get 48 videos with PVC pipe, which is cool. Mm-hmm. But mine is more of like an individual touch. I want to know that player. I want to know this is what you need. You don't need 5,000 drills. You need 3 drills to focus on this problem. When it's fixed, I'll give you more. Anyway, that's why it's been successful.
And it's broken up into block training, which I think compartmentalizing these things are great for hitters in their training in the off season.
Absolutely. That's what it's for.
Helps them stay accountable.
It keeps them sharp. If we need something to work on the off season, and then during the season, then I get to see their game videos. So I tell them how to video, games, so I can see their timing and rhythm and pitching and count sequences. And it's amazing really what we can do with video now, which COVID kind of made us do, but I've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah, damn COVID strikes again. So for more information, be sure to log on to epsteinhitting.com, click on the Online Academy, and sign up today. Good stuff. Let's get into our episode here, our episode topic, talking about college baseball hitters. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast and find us on social media at Jim Tara, at Epstein Hitting. And if you have any questions, email us jimbopodcast21@gmail.com. You were just in the college baseball game not too long ago with Mizzou, just a couple of years ago. And the college game, of course, has started up this week, and at the Division I level, and it's Division II and Division III, which, by the way, has so many good players, especially in the warmer weather climates. Where I live in Tampa, the University of Tampa, led by Joe Urso. I think you know that name. Great head coach, great program. There's so many good players there. So let's just start broad here. What makes a great college hitter? Because the college game is different from the pro game. With hitters and pitchers, but more so with hitters. Mm-hmm. What makes a great college hitter in 2000 and now 2021?
Well, I'll never get back to my interview at Mizzou. I'll never forget this question. It was the best question that Steve Beezer asked. He said, what's more important, player development or recruiting? And he put both me and the recruiting coordinator on the spot, at the same time. And I still don't know how to answer that question. I, of course, said player development, because we don't always get the top athletes. But I'll tell you what, getting the right athletes is really important. Yeah. And getting the right athletes not only their physical tools, and maybe the physical tools is, not even the first thing we look at, but how they work means how they're going to develop. If I have a 5'8" guy and I got a 6'3" guy and one of them's lazy and the other guy works harder, I know that in 2 or 3 years, that kid that works harder they still have to have, ability and talent, but if their talent isn't as good as the other, they will be better in 3 years and that other player will be the same. Like, that's just the way it is. Now you have a guy that's, 6'2" and 215 pounds. They come in as a freshman and they work. Well, now you're going to have somebody that, wow, maybe we have something that's great. So there's multiple layers to making a great hitter. It's players that they're never satisfied, but they also have the right personality where they don't get down too much, because college is tough. So first of all, in college, you don't get, where do all the great players go in the United States? They go in the draft. Right. I mean, except if you're Vanderbilt, sometimes you'll be able to nab a couple guys that were going to be first rounders. But for the most part, if you're a first rounder, a second rounder, maybe even a third rounder, you're going to sign. So you can take away, maybe the top 50 high school players from the market, right? And how many thousand freshmen are going to show up on campus, right? A ton between Division 1, 2, and 3 and NAIA. So there's players everywhere. So you have to find a way to develop them. There was a tweet the other day. It said, "Yay, I was so excited. First college game of the year. Both teams got the leadoff runner on, and then they bunted him over." And the guy was like real sad about that. And I thought to myself, that's what they've been working all fall for. That's what they've been working all fall. Of course they're going to use it. And then, you know what? If that number 3 or 4 hitter, all they got to do is get a base hit to score a run. So it's a different game because the pitching is a little bit different, right? The pitching isn't MLB talent pitching. So that's why it's a different game. They're amateurs. They're going to make more fielding errors. So you have to take advantage of that. You have to bunt more because bunt coverage, those infielders aren't as good. Those pitchers maybe aren't as athletic, don't have as many reps, fielding a bunt and throwing to get the lead runner or throwing to get the hitter that just put the ball in play. So, getting back, I've been digressing all day already on this podcast, but what makes a great hitter? It's somebody that's willing to work and willing to learn. And if you can have those players, I remember my first day at Mizzou, I was there and, hey, introduced myself and blah, blah, blah. And we went to practice. And then the second day, all of a sudden, 2 guys came in early. Hey, can we hit a little bit? It was like 10 o'clock. Sure, bud, let's go hit. And then all of a sudden, a couple days later, it was like 4 guys wanted to hit. And then all of a sudden, there were more guys. And so sometimes the right personality from a coach or that trust that players have in a coach makes a big difference. And so you have to have that two-way street between the players and the coach, because players will always be better with a coach that believes in them and sticks up for them. That's why, there was something last year. I think it was, I don't know which hitting coach it was. Was it Haynes? Was it the Brewers hitting coach? I don't know. He got tossed, because the Brewers weren't hitting at all. And he was frustrated and he was sticking up for his hitters. You know what I mean? The hitting coaches don't get tossed, but he was so passionate about his guys. And to me, I'm like, that's pretty cool. That's a hitting coach that I think all players should want to have.
Yeah. That question that he asked you, by the way, is something that baseball, I think at the highest levels have been wrestling
That's right.
with. That's the miscommunication of the scouting departments throughout baseball and the player development departments. And they're oftentimes, I've noticed and I've heard and I've talked to people about it, they're not on the same page. And that was a great question by him, trying to see how to bridge the gap. And oftentimes it's not done at the collegiate level and certainly not done at the professional level as efficiently as it should be.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I come in with my reports, when we're doing our stuff, is I'll say, here's, because it's on the scouting side, right? So here's the notes, and then here's what they need to fix. I don't know who's going to fix it. Right. If you draft this guy who's going to do X, Y, and Z. And that's where communications, you hope that your player development people see the same things as the scouting people. And a lot of times they don't, and it's not to say one's better than the other. Some of the scouting people messed up too. But yeah, you would think that communication would be a little bit better. But it's hard sometimes. They just pass them off. They're drafted, boom. And now you have the scouting and the assistant general manager and all the director of, international scouting. You have all these people's jobs at stake based on what player development does.
Yeah.
And if player development fails in one aspect and that player that they gave a lot of money to never makes it to the big leagues, they may get fired, right?
Somebody's losing their job. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. See that, but that's why they need more people like you who understands the development and scouting. But what do we know? Also, though, what do you see, going back to our topic, though, with college hitters, what do you see the difference between SEC hitters? It might not be large differences, but SEC hitters, ACC hitters, Pac-12 hitters. What do you see? What are the biggest differences in those hitters? Because the talent level is
I'm throwing
Big
12 in that mix too. Big 12's playing some good baseball too.
Yeah.
What am I seeing? Size. I'm seeing size. I'm seeing strength. I'm seeing size. I'm seeing athleticism.
Yeah.
So you're getting guys that are big. You go through. We were not big at Mizzou. We had like 2 big players, hitters. Yeah. That's another story. But we'd go play Georgia, and we play Vanderbilt, and you're like, God, these are big physical guys that fill out a uniform. That's the big difference you see between the SEC or those big schools. Is that number one, they get these big athletic guys. They're going to get the guy that's 6'3", 200 pounds coming out of high school. That's a shortstop or a third baseman. Where lower tier schools are going to get a 5'10", 170 pound kid that plays the same position. Doesn't mean that the kid's not as good, but the kid's going to hit the ball 10 miles an hour less off the bat right then, or 15 miles an hour. So now all of a sudden misses go through the infield, right? Yeah. Even though they didn't quite smoke it, it gets through the infield where that 175 pound kid, it doesn't. So you're getting big league bodies for the most part in the big SEC schools, Mississippi State, like I said, Georgia, Florida, you're getting big guys. LSU, you're getting dudes. And that's the big difference between the conferences. It doesn't mean that they're better. It doesn't mean that you can't get them out. It doesn't mean they don't have swing flaws and you can expose them. Yeah. But the difference is the athlete itself is bigger, stronger, and faster for the most part.
But there's always differences too with freshmen at any level, any conference, any playing level. When they come onto campus, they're undersized, a little bit undersized, because it's natural progression. Their bodies aren't always statistically. Most players that are freshmen that are 17, 18 years old are not physically developed as the 19, 20, 21-year-old, physically and mentally. So how do you integrate their swings into what you're trying to teach and what you've been teaching to the upperclassmen for the last 2-3 years?
Yeah, and sometimes you have a guy that's 180 pounds that hits the ball as hard as the guy that's 215 pounds. So it all has to do with, how hard they're hitting. So what we're working on is, what's your miss? Aaron Judge, his miss can be a fly ball to right center because it could go out of the park. Okay. I talked about the guys at Mizzou. We had the Peterson, twins. They're not big guys at all, but they hit the ball pretty hard. They could hit home runs, right? And they're, 5'10", and those guys cannot be a fly ball to right field because it's going to be a can of corn, right? So their miss has to be more on top. Their miss has to be a ground ball up the middle, or a ground ball that kind of sneaks through. So what we do is we have to make sure that they don't drop their barrel as early in the swing. They're going to have a flatter swing plane.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what you have to do. You have to judge body type, what they do well. Are you big and slow like Jake Epstein was? Okay. Well, the last thing you want to do is hit a ground ball, especially a hard one, because you're going to turn 2 on it. It's a double play ball. So that miss, because you're bigger, stronger, and slower, you're probably creating more bat speed, because if you're slow and big and not strong, then you're not playing anymore, right? So you have to do something well. You have to know your strength, and that's what you have to cater each of those players' strengths to. So probably the best overall hitter at Mizzou still there, Chad McDaniel, the catcher. Like, the guy could just hit, switch hitting catcher, good size. Really good size, 210, 215. He could get bigger, but he was a catcher, so he was kind of beat up the whole time, but not a lot of power. Like, he's not going to hit a ton of home runs because of what he does with the bat. He kind of lays it off a little bit, but he's going to hit for a really high average. So could we try to change him? Yeah, I tried to get rid of that little barrel. He just kind of fillets balls the other way. We tried to do that. It wasn't comfortable for him to do. And okay, so you're going to hit, 6-7 home runs a year, 8 home runs a year. I think he hit one the other day. You're going to hit a ton of doubles, and you're going to hit 315 in the SEC. Like, the dude can hit. So you also have to use experience on what works for players and what doesn't work.
What about how long? So the Yankees have done this for years. I'm not sure if they still do it. I read a story though a few years ago about how they like to give their minor league players who just entered the organization 30 days to do their own thing, and then they step in and they start to integrate them to playing New York Yankees baseball, whatever that may be. We're not going to get into it now, but is that an approach that you take with freshmen who are 17, 18 years old? Maybe not 30 days, but you give them from the time they get on campus, well, maybe, I don't know, 20 days, 25 days to do their own thing, to properly evaluate them, see where their misses are, see where the holes are, and how you could integrate your plan to what you want them to do and how to develop them as hitters.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you can't just bring everybody in and say, we're going to do this. That doesn't work, that, because this may not work for everybody. This quote, this may not be needed for everyone. So yeah, I love the idea of getting them in there, evaluating their BP swings, evaluating their live at bat swings, creating a video library of both of those, and then having a conversation, sitting down and having a conversation with them a couple of weeks in and say, what are your strengths? I mean, the first question I always ask players, what do you do well and what is your miss? That's what I want to know. And when they tell me what their miss is, I can pretty much tell you what their mechanical issue is. But now all of a sudden I've had them admit what they're not good at.
Yeah.
And then I show them why that happens. And then I show them what the fix is. And if you do that in the right way, they love you, and then they will trust you, and they will work. If you do it in the wrong way, then you've lost them forever, and they're just going to be like, well, I'm how I want to be. And you're going to have guys that do that anyway. Right. I'm who I want to be. So it was funny when I was at Mizzou that's B said, hey, you got some guys that they do their own thing and they're never going to change. And you know what? I was there 2 weeks and they already started to change because of my delivery and how I presented it to them. And now I still talk to those kids that were, quote, hard-headed. Yeah. So it all has to do with the hitting coach and personality and how that player responds to them.
For those who don't know, at the end of fall ball, going into winter break when things were normal, not into that 2020. It's getting back to normal, 2021 somewhat. Yeah. But obviously 2020 was very, very different. Well, maybe not so much with the fall ball, but nevertheless, you went through it. I went through it. Those end of fall meetings when you talk with your coaching staff and they give you kind of a progress report. You've been in those meetings as a player. You've been in those meetings as a coach. What kind of feedback are you giving? I know it's very different and it ranges from spectrum to one end of the spectrum to the other, but what's the type of feedback, some examples that you're giving to those hitters at the end of fall ball that you might not be giving in that meeting prior to fall ball, late August actually starting?
Yeah, you usually have a good month, month and a half. It's like 6 weeks this player is going to be kind of on their own,
Yes.
After Thanksgiving, and when they report back to school. So sometimes it's, if it's an upperclassman, it's a player that's been in your lineup already, and they're going to continue to be in their lineup, or maybe they're a freshman that played their freshman year and they're going to be a starter the sophomore year. It's listen, I need you to stay in shape. I need you to stay flexible. I need you to make sure we don't get hurt when you get back. And I need you to see velocity. Okay? I need you to not just go home and hang out and eat, with your with your family and your buddies. And I need you to see some velocity. I need you to find a machine. I need you to, make sure that when you get back, we're not starting over again with our timing and rhythm. With young players, it might be, hey, it was good. You know what? That was your first fall. Congratulations. You made it. I know it's tiring. There's so much conditioning. There's 5 a.m., 6 a.m. weights on top of classes, on top of practice, on top of study hall. Those are really long days, and you made it through, and we could tell that you got tired and as the fall progressed. So use this time to reset, mentally and physically. But I need you to work on this because there may be a mechanical issue, right? I need you to do these drills that we worked on a lot. I need you to do this, that, and the other. Maybe I'm not concerned as much about that player because maybe they're not going to be part of the mix their freshman year. Maybe they're going to redshirt, or if they are part of the mix, they might be part of the mix if somebody gets hurt or if somebody fails. Yeah. So they're not penciled in as a starter yet, but I need them to be ready. So that might be they may be more on a development plan during that break. And unfortunately, sometimes it's, we're not going to have a spot for you, after the fall. We'd be happy to give you recommendations if you want to go to a smaller school, maybe go to a junior college for a year or two, get some at bats. You're not going to get any at bats here this year. So you can still work out here if you want a gray shirt or red shirt. You can work out. You won't be able to work out with the team, but you can work out and lift and get stronger and bigger and use the facilities to throw. And then we can revisit it. But unfortunately, you didn't show us enough in the fall to secure at least one of the 35 spots that we have.
Right, and that's why fall ball is so important for incoming freshmen, and that's why you better be strong, and you better mentally be ready, and you better be mature as well, because there's 35 spots. Some schools don't even have 35 spots, and if you're gonna redshirt,
this year it's bigger.
That's fine.
I don't even think there's a limit this year. So I know Mizzou's holding a lot of extra guys just because they can. They can have them, but typically, you go down to I know Tennessee and Arkansas, they'll have 60 guys out there in the fall. Yeah. So there's a lot of guys that are going to get cut. There's a lot of, hey, come here and walk on. And these poor kids, and I don't know what I would do in that position either. I'd probably be like, dang, Arkansas wants me. Arkansas is going to give me a walk-on spot here, and I can try to earn my spot. Well, who wouldn't want that challenge, right?
Right.
But maybe they gave up a 50% scholarship at Arkansas State,
right,
or Central Arkansas. Now all of a sudden they get cut in the fall, and now they have to reapply, try to transfer into other schools. That scholarship money is gone. It's a tough racket.
Yeah. Well, by the way, what's gray shirt? I've never heard of that.
Gray shirt is like you're not really on any roster.
Okay.
So you're taking classes. You can use facilities. Like you can. So if you redshirt, you can practice with the team. You just can't play. So you have your 35-person roster, but say you have 5 redshirts. Those 5 redshirts can come to practice every day. And they can work out with the team. They can do team lifts. They can do team practices, team inter squads. A gray shirt can't do that. They're not redshirting. So sometimes if a guy's like kind of on an injury, and rehabbing an injury, you gray shirt them. So they can use the facilities to lift. They can use the facilities to run and hit, but they can't do it when the team is there. They can't have a locker, at the facility, with their name on it. But they can come in, when the team goes out of town, they can come in and work out. So that's the difference between a gray and a red.
Makes sense. Let me revisit though what you said earlier about that 6-week period where players are kind of on their own. Are you still guiding them, still giving them training plans
Yes.
that they can do on their own that pertains to their weaknesses and their holes?
Yes. Yeah, okay. Absolutely. And a lot of times you'll see them, they'll go home for Thanksgiving, but then they come back, for finals. And so sometimes, right before finals, it's usually, lighter practice. It's individual work. We're not doing a ton of team practices for hours a day, but come in for 45 minutes and get your throwing in. Come in for 40 minutes and hit, in a small group setting with just the coach. So this year it was different. It's COVID. The schools weren't allowing the players to come back after Thanksgiving. So once they went home for Thanksgiving, they were there. So it was a much longer extended amount of time. So that communication was very, very important between the player and the coach, because it was, 6-7 weeks that they weren't on campus, and that's tough. And now we're seeing that, here's the season.
Yeah.
By the way, yesterday, I just love college baseball. I really do. I'm so into it more than and I love pro baseball too, but it was like, hey, the season started Friday.
Yeah.
And it was like, everybody's kind of jazzed up, and I'm checking, I'll give D1 baseball and D1 softball, those guys a quote. I'm like, I'm checking scores. I'm checking all my players, like seeing how they're doing. And if they didn't do well, sending them, maybe a quick text, words of encouragement to kind of motivate them. And anyway, it's a very fun time of year for me personally.
Yeah. Did you watch Florida, Miami at all?
No, I don't like Florida. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't, but that was Miami came back and won that game, right?
Yes. Yeah. That was Friday night.
Dude, and Miami's got some sweet throwback jerseys this year. I saw
they do. You know what? I didn't really notice. I had a family thing going on Friday night. I'll tell you about it off the air. So I didn't get a chance. I saw just clips and highlights on social media and whatnot. But I heard that was like the series of the weekend.
It was definitely it was a really good series. And then the other one, Mississippi. There's a great. Are they playing in? No, they're playing in Dallas. They're playing in Arlington. I think Mississippi State played Texas
at Globe Life
yesterday.
Park,
at Globe Life, which is great because it actually looked like a snow globe.
Yeah,
this past week, snow globe life.
So with college hitters at, say, the SEC, some of these big conferences, analytics are now involved in many facets of the college game too. And all the blast motion technology, all the new technology that's out there, it's now integrated into some of these big time college programs that have the budget to do that. Even Hawkeye and TrackMan, same thing. But there's still, and again, watching college baseball over the last few years, maybe not so much last year, but just kind of looking over some of the players and some of the prospects that are, say, top 100 draft prospects this coming year. And then going to their school, seeing their box score, seeing how the lineup is constructed, and then kind of applying that to what these hitters may be and what they look like in terms of what types of hitters they are. It seems like to me, and maybe I'm wrong here, but college baseball seems to be very privy in ordering their hitters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 based off their strengths, kind of what pro ball used to do. Not so much, maybe as much or as prevalent anymore, but it seems like college baseball is still old school in that way.
Yeah, I would say so. Some maybe a little too extreme sometimes for my taste in terms of the platoon situation. No, but I think it's the same. I mean, I would want speed at the top of the order. I would want speed in the number 9 spot, and I would want a guy that could push and drag in the number 2 spot. You can just put pressure on defenses that aren't used to it. And the weather stinks right now.
Yeah.
So you get wet fields in the spring, and it's guys slip coming off the mound. You can really force a lot of runs across in college baseball, but way more than you can, at the professional level. So I think there's strategy in putting lineups together. It's a tough gig because, it's a short season. Like Major League Baseball, you're pretty much going to run the same guys out there.
Yeah.
Right. Who makes the most money? This is the guys that are going pretty much play it every day, or at least take up 6 of those, 8 spots in your lineup.
Yeah.
Where college baseball, sometimes, I mean, this is just different coaches. This is, every coach has different ideas on this, but some coaches are like, oh, we got a lefty starting. I want to start my right-handed lineup, and I got a right-handed starter. I'm going to start my left-hand lineup. And then, you have guys that are, you don't get comfortable as a hitter.
Yeah.
You just don't get comfortable unless you can maybe play 4, 5, 6 games in a row.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and that's as a coach, I'm more of these are the guys I have faith in, defensively and offensively. I am going to give you, 40 at bats, 50 at bats. And if you fail me, then I'm going to find other people and I'm going to give them 40 or 50 at bats, assuming they don't make 3 errors a game, on defense.
Right.
And that's my strategy. Like I feel, as a player, that's what I would have wanted. And as a coach, I think that's, how you build. I think if you're constantly shuffling players in and out, looking for that magic lineup or that magic potion, and you're over analyzing the pitcher's strengths and the hitter's strengths, I think sometimes we can go too far with that.
Right. So 40 at bats, 40 to 50 at bats that you give somebody.
Yeah.
That
if they've earned that spot through the fall,
right.
The fall and then the early spring when they come back, for sure.
This is kind of a stupid question, but it's happening more and more in college baseball now. It has to do with the fields and the turf. Are you a fan of these turf fields? Because obviously multi-purpose fields are good and they're money savers for the universities. What do you think of that?
Yeah.
I'm not big on it. I hate it. I'm more natural grass, natural infield. That's the way the game of baseball should be played at the highest levels. And you'll never get me to change on that. I don't care how much money it saves. But more and more in college baseball, there are these turf fields that I just absolutely can't stand, especially in the colder climates, the Big Ten schools, Michigan, Indiana, I think has a turf field. Notre Dame may have a turf field as well.
Oh, it's not like the Tampa Bay Rays have turf or anything like that.
No, they do. They do. But can I just say something in their defense, though? The Tampa Bay Rays, they got
St. Petersburg in there somewhere.
They're St. Petersburg Rays.
Oh, okay. That's right.
They do have they do have dirt, though.
So not a stupid question, Jim. And I was the same way. Yeah. So we had turf at Mizzou. So here's what I like about turf. No field maintenance.
Right.
No field maintenance.
So no pulling tarp for the players, which they love.
No tarps. No, doing the baselines, doing the batter's box. I mean, our mound was turf. I mean, the whole thing was turf. Now it's weird, but I'll tell you what, we played in some nasty weather. We played in downpours. We played in sleet. That stuff heats up really well. So when we had snow on the field and then the sun came out, it would melt it off way quicker than if it was grass or dirt.
Yeah.
So I loved it. The other thing I really liked is that my shoes always stayed very clean. I never had to worry about dirty shoes. So I wore my whites when we were on turf. Now we go to Georgia, they're natural. I can't bring the white shoes there because of the red dirt they have at Georgia's, complex. So, but it's weird. Like you're not going to make any errors on turf. It's easy. Like even I would have been a good defender on turf. But it is an advantage when you, like all the turf teams you'll see will have really high fielding percentages versus the teams that play half their games on natural grass. And it is a little bit different. Like it's a much faster game on natural grass. The turf is not fast. Yeah. It's not a fast turf on the infield. So, it's different. Like as an infielder, you can skip balls, shortstops deep in the hole. You can really skip those things across the infield. Catchers can skip balls to second base, long hop to second base more than grass where it could take kind of a funky hop. So, I will say it's a different game. It's a cleaner game defensively and obviously the shoes, but there's something about grass and there's something about dirt and there's something, about the smell when the grass is cut. So I'm going to say I love the natural surfaces, but I'll tell you what, if you're in every Big Ten school should have it. A lot of the Big 12 schools should have it. Anybody that gets all the Pacific Northwest schools need to have it. It's just not feasible to have dirt during March, in much of this country.
So when you draft a player, if you're an organization, you draft a player who's been sliding on turf, their sliding fundamentals have completely changed because they may overslide the bag and get tagged out. If you're drafting a player from one of those schools, you have to teach them how to slide in your player development department. Seems like just a waste of time.
No, they play on grass too. They don't play every game on turf. The only issue is sliding is when the turf gets wet. You got to slide like 20 feet before. That was like one of our things. Yeah. As soon as the turf got wet, I'd go to our middle infielders, hold every single tag on a stolen base or a double, like the second baseman and shortstop, because every single time, as soon as we got a little moisture on our field, you would slide like you couldn't stop. I'm telling you, 20 feet. You had to slide 20 feet.
I don't doubt it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. That was really the only weird part of it. But the batter's box is pretty much, we swap one of those out every year. The batter's box is flat. Yeah, you don't have holes in the batter's box. Pretty nice.
I guess so. I like my grass. Unless I always like the AstroTurf old stadiums though. The AstroTurf was kind of cool.
That's gross.
I prefer the grass, but if I do prefer turf, I guess the stupid black pellets though that we kick up.
Get that.
Yeah. Final question before we wrap up the show here this week. Good episode. Be sure to like and subscribe, and of course follow us on social media at Jim Tara, at Epstein Hitting, and on Instagram as well. And submit us your questions through social media or jimbopodcast21@gmail.com. What makes we touched on it earlier, but what are some of the key characteristics of some of the best college baseball hitters in 2021?
Oh, the guys that I've seen, I would say, there's one I really like too. I can't tell you who it is, but it'll be fun to watch him play this year. Typically, the first thing is how they carry themselves and internal confidence. That more than you can have a player with great mechanics and great ability. If they don't believe in themselves and they don't have that cocky internal, I'm greater than everybody else on this field, it doesn't work. So I'm looking for guys that are confident in what they do.
Yeah.
Even if what they do is not perfect. That will make a phenomenal college baseball player, that confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Not worried about, I wonder if I cast here. I wonder if I stride late. I wonder if I bail out. Nah, I don't care about that. They're getting the box. They own that box, and they're going to do damage no matter what. So that's one of them. But again, like anything else that I do, it's hand pass. Guys, if I see a guy that's pretty big, strong, like hits the ball hard, and they have a good hand path, so they can wait a long time to make their decision, and they stay through the ball, that's going to be a hitter that dominates the college game.
Hey, who has great hand path, by the way? Clint Frazier.
Yeah?
Yeah, I saw a clip of him this week on Twitter.
Did you? Yeah.
And he has really
I don't know. I haven't looked at his.
I could be wrong.
No. But there's a lot of guys with great hand paths, right? So you know who has a great hand path, in my opinion? The catcher for the Red Sox. What's his name? Short, stocky guy. I really like him.
Christian Vasquez.
Vasquez, yeah. Yeah. Like, he got great hand path. So imagine but he's not a Hall of Fame hitter, right?
Yeah.
So, but if he didn't have a good hand path, he wouldn't be in the big leagues, right? He wouldn't have hit 200 in the minor leagues. So you have a great hand path with a guy that's physically talented and that can hit, and all of a sudden you have superstars.
Do you have another example of someone with a great hand path? Well, I say that because Christian Vasquez also is tremendous defensive.
He's a tremendous.
So that's another reason he's in the big leagues.
Right.
Putting you on the spot here.
Yes. I'll find one.
Correa. Well.
Yeah, but he's a superstar.
Yeah.
Trying to think. Yeah, like Kike Hernandez. And that other guy.
How about Chris Taylor?
Chris Taylor, too, yes. Both those guys have really, really good mechanics. Now, both of them are big leaguers, right? I mean, both of them are World Series champions. But both of them are they're not huge, right?
No.
They're not, they're not 225 pounds, but they're athletic. They have good hand pass, and they're everyday big leaguers.
Yeah. Well, good stuff. Next week we do our mechanical breakdown series, volume 9, and we'll probably be breaking down Manny Ramirez, but that may change. Subject.
Maybe we'll do a slow motion of him in Baltimore when he catches that ball, high fives the fan, and then turns and throws the ball back to the infield.
Yeah,
one of my favorite clips of all time.
Yeah, what was the other clip when he went into the Green Monster and just hit in the Green Monster? I wonder
I want to hang out with that guy.
I wonder what I do wonder. I guess we'll touch on this next week, but we can do a little bit of it right now. I wonder what he would think about all of the analytics and how the game has changed from when he was playing in today's game. I mean, the game has just changed so much in the last 5 years. I wonder what he would think of all this.
He's pretty tuned into what's going on and all the different hitting coaches and crazy. So I think he would probably buy in a little bit.
Okay.
Would be my take. Like, I think I don't know if he would do it, but he's definitely not one to shy away from what's new that's out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, his swing was just tremendous. It really was. I say that a lot though.
Yeah.
But it was just a thing of beauty. There was a pitch that was on the outer half, black of the plate, 2007 playoffs, that he hit Fenway Park, that he hit the opposite way. And I remember Tim McCarver remarking, simply unbelievable. And it was, but he did that consistently. That's why he was one of the best hitters of all time.
He really was. I mean, his depth perception and hitting ball at all fields.
Yeah.
He's a good hitter.
Yeah. So we'll discuss him next week. We'll break down his mechanics, our mechanical breakdown series, volume 9. If you have any questions, email us jimbopodcast21@gmail.com. Follow us on social media and be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast as well. Good stuff this week, and we'll talk to you next week. Stay safe, everybody. Have a good one.